Welcome to the Berry Tramel Show. Brian Newberry, a Westmoore High School graduate, just completed his first season as the head football coach at the Naval Academy, and it's quite the wild time to be leading the Midshipmen. NIL and the transfer portal would seem to mostly affect Navy just one way, adversely. We'll talk to Newberry about coaching one of America's teams. But first, let's thank our sponsors for supporting the Berry Tramel Show. Next Generation Roofing, Weedman Lawn Service, FireLakeJobs.com, Oklahoma's Ford Dealers, Oklahoma's 988 Helpline, and Two Fellas Moving. I like helping people move. It's one of my few talents, but I'm the oddball. And that's where Two Fellas Moving comes in. Two Fellas offers free, no-strings quotes for your move. With over 20 years' experience, they've pretty much moved it all. And their services don't end at moving. Need to do some remodeling or spring cleaning? They have you covered with dumpster rentals and junk haul services. Remember, quotes are free and there are no strings attached. If you're moving in Oklahoma, make sure to call the fellas. Visit twofellas.com for your free quote today. And we welcome in Brian Newberry, head football coach at the Naval Academy, just completed his first season with the Midshipmen. And tell us, Brian, Navy's such a tradition-rich place. What's it like coaching football, head football coach at Navy?
Well, I tell you what, I think I get one of the best jobs in the country. I've always thought these academy jobs were great jobs just because of, the quality of young men that you get to coach on a daily basis, the mission of the academies, what these young men are going to go on to do, to have an opportunity to pour into those guys and to help them become better leaders that are going to go out and lead men and women and serve our country is great responsibility and really a privilege at the same time. And I think when you look at the current football climate right now with the portal and the NIL and all the things that are going on, we're a little bit sheltered from some of that stuff. So it's nice not to have to deal with that. I've got friends that are coaching different schools all over the country. It's an exhausting and a frustrating time for a lot of guys, but we're still truly a developmental program here. The guys that you come in with as a freshman are the guys that you're most likely going to graduate with as a senior and go on to serve with, and there's a lot of value in that to me.
Is the NIL and the portal, of course, is all the rage, turning the sport upside down. Navy is not a place you transfer into. Wouldn't seem to be a place where guys are chasing NIL. Is there a downside to it in Annapolis, though?
Yeah, I think, obviously we don't take transfers here unless they're a freshman, and that's very rare that we would do that. But, the downside is if you lose a player in the portal, you can't replace them. But we've been very fortunate. I think the kind of young man that comes to school here understands it's about more than football. We've had some guys that have had opportunities to leave and have stayed here because they value the degree of the Naval Academy. They want to serve their country. And so we feel a little bit, and there's some positives with the portal right now too. I think one in particular is we're starting to be able to recruit a little higher caliber player coming out of high school because those guys aren't getting as many opportunities as they used to. So there's certainly some pros and cons to it.
When you look at recruiting for Navy, you've been there a few years, defensive coordinator, now head coach. Has the sales pitch changed, or has it always been service? And by the way, you get to play some good football too.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's changed. I think the one thing that we started to use in our pitch is that, hey, we're not going to go in the portal to try to out recruit you. This is truly a developmental program. You're going to build relationships and a bond here with your brothers that's going to last you the rest of your lifetime. Anywhere else in the country, it's semester to semester, not even year to year anymore, or where people are flipping their entire roster. I think it becomes really hard to build a culture and a team that truly cares about one another and is bought into each other, trusts each other, loves each other. And so that's a big selling point for us, not just the players, but with their families as well.
Of course, you grew up in Oklahoma City, this part of the country. The Dallas Cowboys call themselves America's team, but Most Americans, when they whittle it down, America's teams are Army and Navy. You guys play that second Saturday in December every year. You were the head coach this past December. What was it like being the head coach in an Army Navy game?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing like that game. I'll tell you that, Barry. And I try not to think about it from a head coach perspective, as far as you can get caught up in that part of it, and the moment gets bigger than it should. But it's just a phenomenal honor and privilege to coach in the game and to be a part of it. There's nothing like the feeling you get walking on the field, just the pride and the patriotism, and that game is more than a game. It's a celebration, of our men and women and the armed forces. And but there's nothing quite like it. My first experience was 2019 as a defensive coordinator. I remember I was in the press box, and I'm trying to scribble down notes in the first drive of the game, and I can't read my handwriting. That's how big of a deal it is for us. And but yeah, it's a tremendous honor to lead our team on the field in that game. But you're right, Barry. There's nothing like that game.
Tell us a little bit. We read about it. We talk to people about it, but the daily rigors of a Navy football player. What's required of these guys from before sunup to after sundown? What do the academies demand of the guys who choose to play football in Annapolis and in West Point?
Yeah, well, I think to play Division I football in itself is dang near a full-time job, and then you've got a very serious academic load. Our guys are in class all day long. Then you have the military obligations on top of that. Of course, our players can't be at every military obligation that we have, so some of those things they get out of. But when they're out of those, they're doing something related to football. So it's sun up to sundown for these guys. Obviously, have to organize their time very well, and we have to be sensitive to that. And we get in and get out, get our work done, try to work smarter, not harder, and be really efficient with what we do, what we ask them to do, and understanding if they have a lot on their plate. It's important to me that the best part of their day is when they come over to the football building. We want this to be a want-to environment, not a have-to environment. And that doesn't mean we're not going to do hard things in our program, but we want them to enjoy coming over here every day.
In your 5 years at the academy, have you seen the response from prospective recruits change? Is the kids you talk to trying to persuade them to come to Navy? Is the reception the same, you think, in the last 5 years, or has the chaos changed what you're seeing out of recruits?
Yeah, I think it's certainly a discussion. I think a lot of that comes up with the parents, but I haven't seen it change tremendously. Barry, it's always a concern, particularly with the moms and things that are going on in the world, and what we're going to ask their sons to do. But no, it hasn't really changed. I'd say that probably 90% of the players that we recruit don't have military history in their family and never even considered serving necessarily until we started recruiting them. And it's good for us to get on a young man early on in the process, to get them on campus, to get around our players. There's a lot of misconceptions about the day-to-day at the academy, a lot of misconceptions about what they do, when they graduate and when they commission. So it's important for us to give players and their parents as much information as we can. And typically when we can get the moms to drop their shoulders a little bit and understand what that looks like, the better chance we have to recruit young men.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the 1980s. You're growing up in Oklahoma City. You go to Westmoore High School. You play for Wayne Estes. You guys make the state championship game in '91. That memorable showdown with Putnam North. Mike Little's great team, and the Panthers stop you on the last play of the game. A quarterback sneak. You're playing quarterback. You don't get in. You finish state runner-up. What are your memories of being a Westmoore Jaguar?
Really nothing but great memories. I had some reason I got into coaching was because of my high school coaches. Wayne Estes certainly being one of those guys. We had a bunch of tremendous coaches on that staff. David Jones, who's still coaching in Texas. Todd Dilbeck, I think, was in administration now. Everett Mahaney was our defensive coordinator. Jeff Adams coached me in the secondary. But the reason I got into coaching is because of the impact that those guys had on me. It was an exceptional staff. We were a new program. So to go to the state championship, I think it was the fourth year that Westmoore had existed, was a big deal. And if you remember, Barry, we got in the playoffs with, I think, a 5-5 record. Kind of peaked late, and Jeff Frazier was part of that team. Obviously, a really good player that played at Oklahoma, and but no, it was a lot of fun and nothing but great memories. And, that particular play you mentioned earlier still kind of haunts me a little bit. But you learn from that kind of adversity, and you learn not to be afraid of failure and to accept that. The thing we talk about in our program all the time is being the best version of ourselves, and I think that team was that. And although we fell short, I think we all had a lot to be proud of, and nothing but great memories.
You sign with Baylor. You go down and play your entire career for the Bears in the Southwest Conference. Of course, you signed on and played a couple of years with for Grant Taft, who's of course one of the pillars of college football coaching.
No question.
What did you get out of your Baylor University experience?
Yeah, no, great experience. Grant Taft, I was a part of his last recruiting class, so I was only with him for a year, Barry, and then it was Chuck Reed after that, and several coaching changes. One serious injury and a couple of minor ones. The football piece of things, to be honest, was a little bit frustrating for me, but learned a ton from it, and wouldn't be who I am today without having gone through some of that adversity and those experiences, and think I'm a better coach for having gone through that. But obviously a wonderful school, great memories. Still have friends that I went to school with that keep in contact with. My best friend was my roommate there at Baylor. So wonderful experience around a lot of great coaches and a lot of great people, and nothing but great things to say about Baylor.
Now, you said you were inspired to be a coach by that Westmoore staff of Wayne Estes. Was that always the goal, always the plan? Hey, when you got to Baylor, hey, I want to keep going in football and be a coach after I graduate?
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. I was the first person on either side of my family to graduate from college, so it's not something that we talked about a lot growing up. It's funny, when I got there, I thought maybe I wanted to be pre-med. I think I had a 3.0 my first semester, and going to my counselor, and she said, "Son, you're not a pre-med guy." So I got squashed pretty quick. Then I kind of floated around for the next 2 years trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Didn't know for sure, and then reflected back to those days and the impact my coaches had on me. And so I was a secondary education major. Thought maybe I wanted to coach and teach in high school. Did my student teaching. Thought maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to coach in college. And so, took a year off. While I was doing that, was looking for a graduate assistantship. Thought I'd kill two birds kind of with one stone. But no, I didn't grow up necessarily wanting to be a coach. I kind of fell into it because I wasn't sure what else to do, to be honest with you. And when I did my graduate assistantship, I kind of fell in love with it. And, as you know, if you look at my track record, kind of came up the hard way, bounced around, had a lot of different jobs at different levels, with a lot of different responsibilities. And, to be a head coach, truthfully for me was never the end goal or even the end all be all. I love being a coordinator. That's what I've done the majority of my career. I love the game planning, love the strategy behind that. Love coaching a room. To have this opportunity really, truthfully beyond my wildest dreams. And obviously very fortunate and very lucky to be in this situation.
You talked about that coaching odyssey. Here's what might be the full list: Southern Arkansas, Washington and Lee, Lehigh, Elon, Sewanee, Northern Michigan, Kennesaw State, and in 2019 you land as the Navy defensive coordinator. How was getting to the Division I level a goal, or were you just enjoying the ride and that's where the waves took you?
I think it was always appealing to me. It was always in the back of my mind, but it was never the end goal. When I was at Northern Michigan, I was content. I was happy where I was at. I was enjoying coaching, and I've always believed, be where your feet are and do the best job you can, and good things happen. But I've enjoyed every stop, that I've had, and just tried to focus on the job that I was doing. And the Kennesaw State opportunity kind of came out of nowhere. And, where I was there when we started that program with Brian Bohannon, who did a tremendous job there. And then, and there's the same thing with Navy. We did well there at Kennesaw and got the thing going pretty quickly and played pretty good defense. And then, it took a guy like, Coach Niamata Lolo to take a chance on me, come from Kennesaw State. A guy that not a lot of people had heard of, and forever grateful for him doing that. And so that's how it all kind of came about. But it was 7 years ago. My wife and I drove up this direction from Kennesaw to see her dad in Lewis, Delaware, and stayed in Annapolis for the night. There's a bridge across the water here that we stood on, looked over the campus, and thought, man, I told her what an awesome place that would be to work one of these days. And 7 years later, I'm sitting in this chair, which is pretty surreal.
I was blessed to visit Annapolis a few years ago. It is a lovely place. What do you like about Annapolis, Maryland, and the Naval Academy in terms of just livability and workability?
Sorry, Barry, you cut out there on me for a second.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was able to visit Annapolis a few years ago, and just thought it was a gorgeous. Is it? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I will. No problem. A few years ago, my wife and I were blessed to visit Annapolis and just thought it was a gorgeous place. What do you like about Annapolis in terms of the livability and the workability at the Naval Academy?
Sure. No, it's a great place to live. I pinch myself every day, driving into work, parking along the water down here. There's obviously you're in the capital of Maryland. There's a lot to do in town, a lot of great food. The proximity to Baltimore and DC. It's a great place to live. You like being on the water. It's a tremendous place to live. And, obviously working here at the Naval Academy with the kind of young men that I get to work with every day and the coaches and the support staff we have here. It's just a tremendous place. My wife's mom and dad live, within 2 hours of here. So, being from Oklahoma, being a long way, from my family, it's nice to have them close by. So it's really a perfect situation, for us.
What, the first year at Navy didn't go the way you would have preferred it. What do you see as the prospects for Navy football going forward?
Yeah, and I'm super optimistic moving forward. I think I saw an article the other day with listed the top returning production schools in the country. I think we were in the lower 30s. So we've got a lot of young men coming back. We've been a really young football team the last 2 years, and I think we were really close at times this year. If we're just a little bit better offensively, and it's a 7-8 win season probably, and you go to a bowl game and you feel pretty good about the initial season. And but there's a ton of optimism and energy in our program right now. Our players know that we're close, and you go back to 20 and COVID really set us back. Not to make excuses for the last few years, but it was a tough year. We lost half a class. We don't redshirt here. We don't turn players back for a fifth year, and so we've been playing against veteran football teams this year included. Even the other two service academies. Heavy senior laden teams with fifth year players, and we didn't go that route. So I think that's going to pay off for us, Barry, in the near future. I really do. Really excited about Drew Cronick coming in as our offensive coordinator. I think he's a tremendous offensive mind. I think he understands and knows what it takes to win here at the Naval Academy. And we've played good defense here for the last 5 years, and that won't change, obviously. But no, I'm extremely optimistic. Things don't happen overnight. It's a process, and we got to do a great job of developing our players that come in here and this for the long haul. I want to build this thing to last, and for us to go to a bowl game, for us to win that CIC every year, compete for a conference title is a very realistic goal for us. I expect us to do those things.
Talk about the new offensive coordinator. Army is in some ways gone away from the triple option. What do you see as the future of the offense that you guys have sort of maintained over the years? Most of college football has gone away from the triple option. Navy and Army have kept it alive. What's Navy's future with the triple option?
Sure. Well, I think Army's going back to it. I think they got away from it for a year and decided that wasn't the way to go.
I hadn't heard that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, there's a formula to win at the academies, Barry, and for us, we have to be able to run the football. We have to be able to possess the ball, limit limit our opponent's offensive possessions, take care of the football, not beat ourselves, play great defense. But everything starts with us having the ability to run the ball. And what we're going to do offensively is going to be different than I think any other FBS team in the country. With Coach Cronick, he's got a background in a hybrid or millennial wing T. We're going to incorporate some triple option stuff into that, along with some gun stuff. So it's going to be unique and different. As you know, we have to have a niche in everything that we do here and give our players as much of an edge as we can from an X's and O's standpoint, to be unique and different on defense, offense, and special teams, and make sure the teams really struggle to prepare to play us, especially in a short week. But at the end of the day, that's important. What we do is really important, but how we do it is what's going to separate us and help us win football games with our intangibles. So we got to be able to run the football is the bottom line, and everything's going to stem off of that.
Last question. A lot of Americans, when they watch Navy or Army play, and particularly the Army-Navy game, they get fairly emotional when they hear the fight songs. For 40 years, I've been saying the best fight song in America is Anchors Aweigh. And when you hear the fight songs, or you go through the pomp and circumstance and you're standing on the sidelines before a game, as a coach, are you able to sort of put that aside and keep the task at hand? Or do you take a minute and sort of revel in the emotion and the just the magnificent of it all, of being the Navy football coach and being a part of such a great tradition?
Yeah, I think for me, it's a very brief moment of gratitude, before that game starts, and to soak it in and give myself 5 minutes. To just like I said, just to have some gratitude for being a part of it, the magnitude of it, try to soak in, the pageantry of it. And then at the end of the game, especially when we sing second and we're singing that song, that's when the emotions, really, really come out of me. And that's when, I've shed a tear a couple of times in that game, just all the things that you go through, that being the final game of your season, if you're not going to a bowl game, and just how big of a deal it is for our players, to see the joy on their face. There's nothing like winning that game, Barry, and there's nothing worse than losing it, And but it's always emotional. But you try to take it in and have gratitude for it before, and you kind of let it all hang out, afterwards.
We can tell you this, Brian: an entire state, the state of Oklahoma, is pulling for you, supporting you, pulling for the Midshipmen of Navy, and very proud of what you've done and what you're doing. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Barry. I really appreciate that. It's good catching up with you.
Thanks a lot. Brian Newberry, the Navy football coach. Remember, thanks for joining the Berry Tramel Show, but remember, you can now access us via the Sellout Crowd app. Just go to the App Store and search Sellout Crowd. And if this is your first time hearing or watching the show, be sure to subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. And if you like what you hear, please leave a review. You can read me every day at berrytramel.com, across social media, and on selloutcrowd.com. Talk to you next week.